All right, YouTube, it's time to talk about Bill Cosby because, right now people don't want to talk about anything else. About sticking his pudding pop in people's jello cups, apparently, doing so in a manner that's, not exactly legal. At least that's the allegation. My first thought is this: I think that the people that are saying, no, Bill Cosby wouldn't do this and so forth, he's a family man, look at him wearing his sweater, his comedies PG, sometimes PG 13, but ultimately, Bill Cosby is seen as sort of the personification of family friendly stand up, family friendly sort of, voiceover roles, movie roles, and so forth. He's seen as a family friendly figure. He's the sort of comedian that you would expect to see in like a Disney movie or something like that. I think that's where the resistance to Cosby as anything other than this sort of family man figure, the sort of dad of the house, sort of gentle and sort of like a big teddy bear. That's how people perceive him as. And people need to realize something. That is an act. That is his onstage persona that he has made so many millions of dollars portraying. That is an act. That's part of his stand-up routine because a lot of it's based on his family anyway, let's face it. It's his stand-up routine and his acting and his other stuff. That's his persona. That's his professional persona. That is not his public life. People in positions like that, where they're public figures in any capacity, they don't have to be actual celebrities, they can just be known online or something. That is not necessarily reflective of the way that they act in their private lives. And I think some people realize this, and I think others don't. I think another problem is that a lot of the people that would otherwise be outraged, people that are sort of in positions of media power, political power, legal power, and so forth, a lot of them come from the generation that grew up with Bill Cosby. They grew up watching, I mean, it's like if you said Jim Henson was a child molester or something, which thankfully doesn't appear to be the case. But I mean, it's the same thing. People from that generation that were in their teens or they were little kids in the 70s and 80s, those are the people primarily that hold positions of power right now in this country. And they remember Cosby as being that sort of PG-rated comic on TV. That they thought it was edgy when he made a joke about, farting or something. And it's nothing like today's comedy, and it makes them nostalgic, just like the Muppets or any of this other stuff. And they don't want to believe that Bill Cosby could possibly, apparently rape a bunch of women. I don't even know how many allegations it's up to. I think right now, there are 10 separate alleged encounters. And I think the total is 16 now. This goes beyond the realm of, well, these people just want money out of him, because most of these people wouldn't be able to file a civil suit anyway. That's the other thing people have to realize. It's past the statute of limitations. These people are talking about stuff that happened in the 80s and the 70s. It's way past the statute of limitations where they could file any sort of criminal action or civil suit. They don't stand to gain anything from these allegations. Nothing whatsoever. They're not going to get a red cent. In fact, it takes some level of bravery to do this, because the opposite is actually true. He might then go head hunting after them, claim the allegations are false, and file civil suits against them. I think the reason why you've seen this is with the last large-scale allegation. It started sort of a tidal wave effect there, where you've got other people who were sort of in the closet about the fact that he was, putting his pudding pop where it didn't belong, inside of their vaginas, inside of their mouths, inside of other orifice, and so forth. And they said, well, now that the story's broken, it's so many years later and so forth, might as well come forward with my claims. And there probably will be others that will come forward as well. But what we seem to be looking at is a person who in public, in their public life as an actor, as a comedian, portrayed themselves as family-friendly, family man, man of the house, sort of, clean, squeaky clean comedy you can bring your little kids to. They'll probably be bored because they don't give a fuck about Bill Cosby, but you can bring them anyway and be nostalgic if you're in your 40s or 50s. Meanwhile, in his private life, it appears, because I have to assume that at least some of the allegations are true, if not all of them, that he was actually repeatedly assaulting women on a regular basis. What I find really funny is this. You've got two further things at play. The first thing is that a lot of the sort of right-wing white nationalists are going after Cosby, but they're kind of confused because one part of them likes Cosby for calling out black culture, the ghettoization of black culture, and the other part's saying, well, yeah, but he's black, therefore white women stuff. And on the left, you've got sort of the opposite. They defended Cosby for years as well because he was seen as a nonpartisan, sort of just a stand-up guy. And then he made his statements about black culture and all hell broke loose because as soon as he did that, the liberal media would no longer be willing to defend him because he looked like what they would call an Uncle Tom or an Oreo or something like that. Those are their own racial terms, by the way. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's fairly clear that when you have this many allegations, to dismiss them all and say that it's all for money, when there's actually no possibility of filing a civil suit anyway, I think it stretches reality. It's likely that at least some of these claims are true. It looks like Bill Cosby actually this entire time was taking off of his robe and showing his pudding pop to people. And I'm sure that crushes Bill Cosby's own ego because if he is that he'd be sort of like an Ike Turner figure. If he really is that manipulative and sort of portraying someone who's completely different, the family-friendly sort of jive dude on stage, and then going home and apparently, randomly assaulting actresses and waitresses and, models and so forth. And people don't want to believe it, but they need to. This sort of weird celebrity worship, as though somebody who's famous and rich is beyond reproach. It makes no sense. You don't use that logic on politicians. Anthony Weiner tweets a couple of photos of his, middle-aged nipples to some intern, and all of a sudden he crushes his own career. Herman Cain was a front runner for the GOP the last time around to try to challenge Obama, and ended up dropping out because of a few allegations of rape and assault on his part. And nobody really and these same people that are defending Cosby largely didn't defend these people. They didn't defend Anthony Weiner. They didn't defend Herman Cain. They're defending Bill Cosby because they're nostalgic and they want to believe that he really is that sort of family guy with the sweater on. Well, he's probably not. Even if we assume the claims are false, still, it's a stretch of the imagination to believe that his public persona accurately reflects the way he is in all parts of his private life. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not the way the world works. That's stage act. That's his stand-up routine. That's his acting. That's literally acting in both a literal and figurative sense. That's acting. People need to realize that. Then it's the same way with all these other celebrities. Your favorite singer might have raped somebody. Your favorite actor might be a child molester. You have no way of knowing. You don't peer into these people's private lives, and you certainly don't have the money to find out what they're actually doing. You're not exactly hiring Magnum PI to go trail them and look through their garbage every night. So people need to keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, Bill Cosby's goose is basically cooked. He's got a show pulled, got comedy tours pulled. And the thing is, because there are so many allegations, it doesn't look like he's going to have a career left after the next few weeks get done, especially if more pile on, which is entirely possible. What you could see is that people come out of the woodwork to make this claim. What happens if you have 100 women claim that they were raped by Bill Cosby? What would happen? People's minds would break. People would kill themselves because they want to be nostalgic for the sort of so-called family-friendly period of the Carter and Reagan era. Oh, I had to watch 20 hours of Muppet Show reruns just to get over my sadness because Bill fucking Cosby raped somebody. See, I don't care. I never liked... I thought Bill Cosby was alright. Some of his stand-up is alright. But overall, I think most of it's too mild for my taste. I'm more of a Dennis Leary fan. Even there, Dennis Leary is my favorite comedian. But I wouldn't go so far as to say I know anything about his private life. I don't go to his house and you know, hang out with his kids and play football in the backyard. I don't know anything about his private life. All I know is his public persona. He could be that funny in real life. I mean, he could be like a Robin Williams figure, because by all accounts, it seems like he really was that fucking Dell stage setup. It seems like he was a chucklehead, albeit suicidally depressed in his actual private life. But even there, you know, somebody could claim something about Robin Williams posthumously as well. It hasn't happened yet, but it could happen. You get all of these claims made all the time. But fucking Bill Cosby apparently was spending most of his life assaulting people. I don't see any way he can really get around this. He hasn't even really addressed it yet. He doesn't want to talk about these allegations. When talking about, I mean, really, if he had decided to talk about him, he could have defended himself, and a lot of people would have given him a lot of leeway in actually supporting him and in believing his explanation if his explanation made any sense. A lot of people would have given him that sort of credit to his name because he's Bill Cosby. He chose not to do that, which is suspicious in and of itself. The fact that he doesn't want to touch the issue makes me suspicious. I suspect that there will be allegations that are far more recent and do lead to civil suits, and he doesn't want to publicly defend himself because he doesn't want anything on record about these cases, because he understands that he's guilty. That's my take on it. It's a very smart move from a legal perspective, very dumb move from a public relations perspective, but that's the course that he's chosen. But no, Bill Cosby in his private life probably is nothing like the person that you see in the green sweater talking about Jell-O cups up on stage. People need to understand this. Let go of all this weird celebrity worship where you think somebody has $1 million and a few 100,000 fans and all of a sudden they're a spotless persona. I'll give myself as an example. Now, I don't rape people and do things like that, but I'll give an example for myself. I get on the camera here and talk to thousands of people on YouTube, and people know who I am, people know what I look like, people know my views, and I take a great deal of pride in putting my actual views on YouTube. I don't make a bunch of video game reviews or rant about, pop culture nonsense. In fact, I didn't even want to make a video about Cosby and wouldn't if it weren't so pervasive in the news that it rose to the status of a true current event that's actually important to talk about, and there's something philosophical behind it. But if I go out in public, and I'm not in front of the webcam, and I don't have the microphone and stuff, I tend to be shy and quiet. The average person from YouTube would be hard-pressed to get more than 2 words out from me if I didn't know them personally, sort of somebody that I message with regularly, if they met me on the street. I'm nothing like this as far as my personality goes off of YouTube. I'm the shy, quiet dude. I just go to the store, do my business, and go home. I'm not there to chat for half an hour. I'm not going to start talking about Satanism on the street. I don't do that sort of thing. Because this is sort of my public persona. And my views that I put out are real. I don't lie to people on what I think about religion and things like that. I think people probably understand that at this point, but I'm not this outgoing in public. Just like Bill Cosby may not be that much of a family man when he's, apparently disrobing in front of models. It's a totally different metaphoric situation, but you can understand what I mean. Just because somebody appears in the public square online, on TV, at a stand-up club, and portrays themselves as something doesn't mean that's the way they act all other times of the day. People need to understand that. Look at politicians; they do the same thing. When they come out and make a public appearance, they're all decency, morality, lower taxes, let's get the jobs going. As soon as they get to DC and they're behind closed doors, they're taking money from some Chinese business magnate or some person from APAC that wants them to support a bill that outlaws anti-Semitic speech or something. It's the same thing. People need to understand that there's a difference. And everyone out there watching this is the same. You don't portray yourself exactly the same in every scenario. that you go through in your life. When you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook or something, you probably speak differently than how you do in real life. And you choose your audience as well. Well, Bill Cosby's audience is incredulous. They love him. They think he's basically God in the flesh. He's the family man. He's the PG, maybe PG-13 comedian. When he goes home, he's different from that. That's a given. Whether he's rapacious or not, we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens with the allegations. I'm not going to put him on trial here. But when this many allegations come forward, I tend to lean in favor of believing these women that are making these claims. And that's even with the fact that, yes, some of Cosby's stand-up is absolutely hilarious. Not my favorite stand-up comedian. Dennis Leary, again, takes that spot. Dennis Leary's great. He really is fit to be worshipped for his coffee, beer, and the pulpit, but you should definitely listen to it. You'll like the anti-religious bent to it. But, Bill Cosby's a funny man, but let's face it, that's his public persona. That's his on-stage performance. That's about all. Peace out.